Guys, welcome back to the Iron Roots podcast. I'm your host, Zach Evanesh, and Iron Roots is brought to you by Play. We're literally 30 feet away from the highway, and we're here at the famous York Barbell Hall of Fame Museum, and right here is the York Barbell Company. Through these next few episodes, we're going to be taking you inside the York Barbell Hall of Fame Museum, showing you photos, sharing stories and interviews about iron history greats, and a new friend that I get to interview. So get your protein shake ready, whole milk, bananas, ice cream, old school style. These next few episodes are going to be the best ever.
This is Play's Iron Roots,
A podcast dedicated to uncovering the strength legends, the training methods, and the stories around physical culture and iron history. I'm your host, Zach Evanesh. Grab yourself a protein shake, chalk up, and prepare to travel back in time through some of the most awe-inspiring stories of iron history. It's go time.
On this episode of the Iron Roots podcast, Zach continues his conversation with Jan Dellinger at the York Barbell Museum.
I mean, but there's other. Oh, Chuck Vinci was another unique guy.
Probably you need to write another book.
Well, I did try that in 2009. We ran into problems. John Wood's business, he ran into some, all those, bad economic times. He lost a lot of people that, we had a book, tremendous artwork to it. A lot of those old ads were tremendous flavor to it. It was going to be about 270 pages.
Wow.
We had a lot of original correspondence, some of which I talked about here.
Yeah. I would love to see that come to life.
So anyway, that's, I don't think that's going to happen, but like I said, when he was rolling good, he had the production people to do it, and it's a shame. It would have been volume 2. He had to talk to me for about 5 years before I agreed to do, well, maybe it was 3 years, but until I agreed to do volume 1. I said, nobody would want to read this. I don't think I even want to read it.
I love reading it, and we're talking about, for those that are listening, watching, the Dellinger files.
Yeah.
So when you read it, it's like I feel like I'm in that time period with you, hanging out. It's like it's like a time machine. I love it.
I've been told I tell good stories.
Great stories.
And so like I said, it's just different people. You almost have to hit me with a name, and then I've got a story.
Sure.
The kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you leave me, like I'm laying in bed at night, almost asleep, and then I'm thinking about that person, this incident, that person.
Right.
I told you I went in the book about Grimek. Grimek set me up with Kono. Apparently they had and this is the only time he ever did it. He must have wanted to send a message to Kono. There was
I know the story.
There was apparently a dumbbell pressing contest between Grimek and Kono.
Was it with the hundreds, I believe?
Hundreds. One of them pressed him 17 times, and the other one pressed him 16 times.
It's amazing.
The battle is over who did the 17. And when I told Grimek I'm going to be going with Turpak Jr. and we're going to take equipment up to the Great Gorge, the Strongman contest, he said, tell Kono I said hi. Okay. And he said, oh, and by the way, ask him if he remembers about our dumbbell pressing contest. He never did this to me any other time, so he must have really wanted to send a message to Kono. And he said, the time that I pressed those 100-pound dumbbells 17 times and Kono pressed them 16 times, we had a good contest. So it sounded like a nice anecdote, a nice memory. So when I went up to Kono, and we talked a little bit, and Kono had an interesting sense of humor. But anyway, there was, he said, how's my friend Grimek? I said, fine. Oh, and speaking of Grimek, I said, he said he had a fond memory of the dumbbell pressing contest with you at some point in the York gym. He said, you did him 16 times and he did him 17 times. Wow. They used to call Kono the happy Hawaiian. He wasn't happy then. You go back and tell Grimek, I'm the one that pressed them 17 times. He pressed them 16. It made him mad.
I don't know if we'll ever know.
Yeah.
We will never know.
Depends who you talk. They're both dead, so But you remember, Grimek would have been a little heavier than Kono, but Kono would have been a good bit younger.
Right, so you were saying Grimek weighed like 205, 210, Kono was like 170 something?
Well, it depends when he got him. He was, for a while, he was in the 165-pound class, and then he was in the 181-pound class, which
It just like blows my mind that guys of that weight are pressing the hundreds for double-digit reps overhead.
remember, they didn't bench press that much or that often. It was just an extra. I mean, the floor press, where you pulled the thing over and pressed it.
You did the pullover, and that's what we spoke about earlier. Was like my buddy Donnie Thompson was like, he said, you know, Zach, the guys back then, I don't recall. You know, if I look through the Strength and Health magazines, I don't even know if I recall seeing an article on, hey, your shoulder is injured. So yeah, a lot of pullovers and a lot of overhead work.
There wasn't much of that sports medicine stuff around then. Now, once in a while, you ran across a sympathetic person with a medical background, like Sam Hamola was a chiropractor. He had books out about weight training. He would contribute articles to Strength and Health. There was some sort of physical therapist in the 50s, Lloyd Garner, who had a little bit of a series in Strength and Health about mostly his back injury.
Back stuff, yep, right. Back stuff. And so to do a floor press, you laid on the floor, did kind of a bridge, and pulled the bar over.
Oh yeah, what you did was back in Milo days, you would lay there with the barbell right behind your head, the center of the bar, and you kind of turned your head to one side, and then you pulled it over, and then you pressed it for whatever you could do, and then you put it back. And then, of course, in the 60s, pullovers, you can find a lot of that in MD. It became, well, Stanko did a lot of that when he had to do lying exercises because of his legs. He could do like 350 or something like that, a pullover on an 18-inch high bench. But pullovers became a real standard bodybuilding exercise at the time. Think about it. You're getting a lot of pectoral mass, you're getting a lot of deltoid mass, even your upper back, your triceps.
Your lats.
Yeah, your lats. You know, pretty much, for whatever you can do with a chin, combination of chin and dips, you can do with just the pullover.
With the pullover and press.
Right. It's forgotten exercise.
From the stories, it's like the exercise are gonna be like you're pressing overhead, you're squatting, you're rowing, doing pullover work.
Yeah. And even they talk about the upright row being exercise being a shoulder killer, and it can be, but you still didn't hear. More people did more of that back then in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and we still didn't talk about it.
We've gotten very conservative now, and a friend of mine, he's a strength coach for the Falcons, and I said, hey, are you more conservative knowing you have all of this knowledge of training and these guys have multi-million-dollar contracts? He goes, if I'm conservative, you should fire me.
Well, here's the other thing. It's strength coaching professionals, they're going to do what they want to do. And most of them have their own little routine, maybe personal trainer at home.
Very true.
You better not hurt too many guys, let's put it that way. But again,
I think his message is we can't train them to be fragile because we got to train them to be strong and resilient.
Another good experience I had was I got to be friends with Tom Laputka. At the time, he was a Nautilus Midwest rep. Nautilus Midwest was the biggest distributor of Nautilus equipment, bar none. And he played Canadian football, very good Canadian football player. We went up to Dickinson College when the Redskins were still going up there and got to talk to Dan Riley and some of his people. Dan Riley's an interesting character. He hated the machines when he was at West Point when Jones first brought him up there. He hated them. He said, I erected a wall between my free weights and their machines. But yet he adapted and became quite a Nautilus guy. Although they do free weights too. I mean, it's not, but like I said, there was, I watched them train because you see their hands, the linemen, their hands are always boogered up.
Yep. Oh yeah. Their fingers are in
they do a lot of manual resistance. He said because they can move from here to here, but they can't move from there to there. Yeah. And he said so we do manual resistance with them, and without killing them, so you just got to see strength coaching, the real art of strength coaching. Like from Dan Riley, Kim Wood's another one, and there are other guys. Johnny Parker would know it. Those kinds of guys.
Johnny Parker's programs, you look at it, there's a lot of overhead work.
Well, yeah. Well, that's again, like I said, Vermeil, they did the overhead work.
Yeah.
A lot of that was, they would call Smitty and Smitty, what are the Russians doing now? And that's the way the conversations were. Or what are our Olympic lifters doing now? Now, again, some of the guys like Kim Wood is not Olympic lifting, speed movement oriented, but he certainly trained a lot of people and got a lot of results. Just from hanging around with a lot of those guys, I learned you don't want to hurt them. Because, boy, I mean, there was a time
do no harm is the number one rule.
John Elway got a shoulder injury when he was at the height of his football career doing overhead lifts.
Really?
Now, it didn't linger and didn't affect his play in it, but that can get somebody fired.
Sure, especially if you're doing those lifts the wrong way.
Right.
That stuff's got to be done the right way.
But anyway, so that was another interesting thing I got to see, the evolution.
You got to see a lot, the evolution.
Yeah. And the art of it, and so I guess I had a number of very unique, unusual, and cherished experiences, and met same thing with people here in the 25 years I worked for York Barbell.
Amazing.
Jan Dellinger.
Oh, good talking to you.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Iron Roots with Play. I don't know, I'm speechless, and we're about to take a tour. So,
well, like I said, if you ever have any questions about anything,
I'll have a lot of questions.
you know how to contact me.
Absolutely.
And I'll have to, if I'm ever on vacation in Lancaster, I'll have to just take a little lunch break. I need to take my son here. I really need him to see this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Let the wife go to the Galleria Mall or the Tanger outlets over there in Lancaster.
Exactly.
And you bring the boy over here.
Your son, yeah.
Nothing better than being around the iron game.
I'm envious of you, John Wood, guys like that. Your father's, well, you would be into it. Your son would be, hopefully he does have some interest in it, at least while he plays sports.
Yes.
John Wood's lucky to have a father like Kim. And my dad hated this stuff. He did not want me to do it. He did everything I could to stop me from doing it. And then I got bigger than he was.
That was the era of, if you lift weights, you'll be muscle bound, your muscles will turn to fat. I mean, even doctors still say that stuff now.
The other one was rupture. Yeah. He had some potential problems in that regard. He just assumed, I'll do something stupid. I understand why he said that, because I did plenty of things that were stupid. But, he just figured I'll end up ruptured. And of course, the word they attached to rupture in those days was ruined, physically ruined. So, that was like a big fear to him. You
still hear, like I said, parents and even doctors saying that stuff.
There was an interesting thing, and I'll just throw this out here. You know who Vic Boff was?
Yeah.
Okay. Vic Boff was very involved in the iron game and physical cultures, good friends of Huffman and Grimek. And this was in the 1950s. And I don't know if you would even relate to this, but your children's generation won't. There were the doctors that were on the board of the New York YMCAs wanted to take the weights out of the YMCAs. They thought that this was going to hurt people. Right. People would hurt themselves. So there was a move afoot. Of course, in those days, whatever took place in New York State, it just swept the country. Yep. So anyway, Vic knew people on the board. He got wind of this. He asked if he could have some time at the next board meeting. So he had Bob bring Grimek and I think Turpak. And so then the exchange took place, and these doctors, Bob gave a spiel, and the doctor said, well, look, this gentleman over here, me and Grimek, very muscular, but he has to be muscle bound. Oh. And Grimek said, John, touch your toes. Well, John stood on a chair, and beyond, he's up to about here, below his toes. And Bob said to these doctors, okay, so you think John's muscle bound, you're not. Can you do this? You should be able to. Well, we had that sort of thing going on back and forth, and Grimek, he said, I always hated this when people, he said, I scratched the back of my neck, and because they asked, can you comb your hair?
Right.
Yes, I can comb my hair. He's taking some offense. And so, but things like this, and they said, well, look, I'm sure he's strong, and they lifted weights for him. Grimek did a little hand balancing stuff, and I think he did a split. And Bob says to these doctors, okay, Mr. Musclebound here can do this. That means you could do it better. Well, no, we can't. These are like 60-year-old, 70-year-old doctors. Anyway, Bob filibustered the weights back into the stay at the New York.
That was great. Yeah, that's great. Very good. All right, guys, we're about to take a tour of the York Barbell Museum. Thank you for supporting the Iron Roots podcast, brought to you by Play. To see this episode and all the other educational resources brought to you by Play, go to play.pro, Plae.pro. You're going to love it, and we'll see you next time.